What's the weirdest thing someone casually told you as if it were totally normal? I was chatting to a woman in the grocery checkout line and she commented that she'd lost a lot of weight. It was on topic. Since I need to lose weight, I asked her how she did it. She said her husband, now ex, has poisoned her with antifreeze over a period of time. She barely survived. I wasn't sure what to say, so I said that I didn't think I'd try that method of weight loss. She laughed. A friend of mine was explaining to me why he had to repeat kindergarten. When I was 5, I was at family barbecue, and I couldn't find my dad. I looked all over, and finally, I found him in the garage. He was tied to a chair, and 2 of his cousins were beating the shit out of him. A couple of days later, my dad was driving me to school, and he saw one of the cousins walking down the street. He pulled over, jumped out of the car, and shot his cousin in the head. I missed too many days of kindergarten because of the murder trial, so I had to repeat it. Oh, my parents fight every day and my father left in a rage this morning saying he was going to jump in front of a train. I hope he comes back before I get home. He did before. Was like 10 or 11 and riding public transit and had some dude in his 30s sits next to me, putting me so I'm in the window seat and they're in the aisle seat so I'm trapped, and starts talking about how he just got out of prison for raping his brother and how you shouldn't do that just because someone makes you angry, told in a way where they thought they were passing on really helpful life advice. Was so surreal I didn't even realize how disturbing it actually was until the first retelling of the story. A guy once told me how he loved the feeling of wearing casts, so he'd put casts on himself for days or weeks on end, even if it meant he couldn't drive and would be stuck at home the entire time. He'd use vacation time just to wear full leg arm casts. I've had 12 DUIs, 8 concussions and have died twice. Can't wait till I can drive again. This time I'll take life more seriously. Once I get this ankle bracelet off and my license back. IDK. What was the most alarming part of the sentence? I had a college professor on the first day of class say that she is obsessed with Q-tips and cleaning her ears and that her family has to limit her to 3 a day. Husband and I were pushing our shopping cart out of the grocery store when a random man who honestly looked like Dumbledore looked at my husband and said, "Take my hat. You're gonna need it. You'll be bald very soon." Obviously my husband didn't take it. It was super odd of him to say because my husband had a full head of hair. 3 months later, my husband was diagnosed with a condition that made him lose all of his hair. Weird coincidence. I know a guy. We don't talk often, but due to business we cross paths on occasion. More or less every time we talk he asks if I'm ready for the total societal collapse coming next week, or Tuesday, or at the end of the month, and so on. I just tell him that it's not gonna happen. He usually then asks about my crystal ball, so I remind him that I've been right every time. I'm standing on a corner in the middle of the city writing a text message. I hear this woman start ranting and raving. I don't take notice until I hear her say, "Ya fucking Jew boy." I look up, and she starts singing Jew boy, and pointing at me like a kindergarten bully. I'm confused for several reasons. Firstly, she's well dressed in a business suit and nice hair and shoes. Secondly, I'm not even Jewish. These many years ago, I was walking on a long, narrow, and mostly empty path on campus. As I crossed paths with a literal stranger, I mumbled a courteous greeting, as we do in the South. "Me, how's it going?" Female student. I just recovered memories of being molested. Not that being molested is normal, and definitely not that recovered memories of childhood abuse is normal. But the way she told me was so casual it threw me for a loop. A homophobic guy. The first, no, being gay is a choice. I said something like, "Okay, Choose to be gay for a day, an hour, a single minute if you can. Guy, that's easy. I'm attracted to men all the time. I just choose to only like girls because I'm not gay. Me That they have 6 kids, all with different dads. Each dad is in prison. A story from a friend in Colorado. Someone once asked, "Could you watch my wolves? I can pay you in weed." There's a lot to unpack in that question. My ex-girlfriend, who I genuinely believe is a clinical sociopath, told me once about breaking the nose of a neighborhood girl who was developmentally disabled when she was 10 because she was bored and the girl was annoying her. She told the story like she understood it was wrong, but I got the sense that she knew she was supposed to tell it that way. Not that she agreed. I was walking to work one day and a random older lady across the street waved me over. The gamer in me felt a side quest coming. No. She waved me over to tell me that her son had just died, but her words, he was a shithead, so it's not a total loss. Honestly, it made my day, but I still felt bad. I was leaving the grocery store when one of the employees came up to me and said, "You remind me so much of that guy in Colorado that killed his wife and kids." Me Well, that's pretty disturbing. Her, do you know who I'm talking about? Me, not right offhand. Her, you should Google it. You look a lot like him. I'm always following true crime shows. And I finally got summoned for jury duty. It's very exciting. Me, okay. Yay. That's great. Have a nice day. Hasty exit followed. Someone was telling me I have nice eyes and they wished they could cut them out to keep them. When I was in high school, I was sitting next to a friend on the school bus. Mid-conversation, he spit his gum into a wrapper and put a new piece of gum in his mouth. When I asked him why, he said that his tooth fell out in the gum, but he didn't want to interrupt the conversation, so he just nonchalantly switched out the pieces. As a kid, I used to casually tell people my stepdad liked to go in the garage and film himself getting high and then dressing up in women's clothes and putting makeup on poorly. My mom hated that. Caught my former brother-in-law shooting me. He has diabetes and he has to administrate it in his vein. Thinking face, thinking face, thinking face. My co-worker wasn't feeling well and proceeded to tell in detail about her vaginal discharge. She seemed slightly miffed when I politely told her I was sorry she wasn't well. But that level of person detail was not appropriate. Why would you want your coworker to have those images in their head? Why? That they were doing building work at their home and dug up a human skeleton. They, and their builder, decided it was old and didn't need any investigation, so they tossed it in the dumpster. That he had this much of his penis shot off in the Vietnam War while holding his thumb and forefinger roughly an inch apart. I worked with someone who had been in the news for driving a car in which 3 passengers died. She casually mentioned that the mother of 130F, the victims, was very angry at her. And she said to me, "I mean, she has other children." I was at a fancy dinner in a country where meat is a central part of the diet. One man, however, was a vegetarian. As this was uncommon in the area, I asked what got him interested in vegetarianism. He explained that he was once forced to eat other human beings and has not been able to eat meat since. It was an unfortunately true story of how he'd been stopped by terrorists in some African country when he was chaperoning a bus full of children on some trip. Granted, he knew it wasn't normal, but he dropped it so casually as if it were as banal as any other reason to become vegetarian. Oh, he was born with webbed balls. He had surgery as a baby. You have to have noticed the scar said about my boyfriend by his mother while he was at work.